Welcome, everybody, to the PC Perspective podcast. This is podcast episode number 358, being recorded July 15th, 2015. I'm Alan Malventano.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And we got nobody else. So Ryan is out on family business at the moment. Just making sure that mama and baby get home all okay and everything. So he will be back with us hopefully next week. This podcast is probably just going to be a dud. We'll just call it right now. It's been like a slow week. It's not a lot on there, but hey, it might actually be a short one.
This is usually the best podcast.
Cursed us.
Yeah, this might actually be a short podcast. Holy crap. If you would like to see future longer podcasts, or maybe even shorter ones, who knows, you can subscribe to our mailing list. We got a non-spam mailing list. We do not let Josh have access to this. You will not get any.
That joke will never get old, apparently.
You will not get any Josh Tech stuff here. Well, you know, because we get people unsubscribe.
What if I get good products that I can sell?
No.
For money that
No.
you like?
Mm-mm.
Like that
I'm
email
pretty sure
I
I
got.
can edit that page. I'll add a second mailing list to the bottom.
Do you know I'm royalty from Nigeria?
Are you going to try to sell me a pallet full of Quadros as well, like that other guy?
Oh,
Quadros. No.
that's an email that you got?
I got that email.
Pallet full of
Nice.
quadros?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. We might have one of those in the back here somewhere.
Maybe.
Actually, there's a box full of quadros right over there. So we have a mailing list. You simply submit your name and your email address, and then we send out emails before we record live events such as this podcast or other interviews that might be occurring in the future. Next up is
Things.
the bad news.
Oh.
We'll just start it with the bad news. So for several reasons, this being the big one, we are not going to QuakeCon this year. Josh doesn't get to drink his free beer.
There's no such thing as free beer. There's always a price to be paid.
It was pretty free.
Free as in beer?
It was pretty free
Okay,
that
well.
one time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
we were
right.
just sat down to record a podcast and someone just plunked a six-pack on the desk in front of us. That was pretty free.
Freeing.
It was freeing
Yeah.
as well, yeah. So we can't make QuakeCon this year, guys. We are very sorry. Mainly due to the very premature young Shrout arrival, who will be making it home very, very shortly here. But just that, it would have been impossible for Ryan and the rest of the team here to be able to organize for QuakeCon, and then, you know, if the father of the brand new child was leaving to go to a week-long event so shortly after premature baby made it home, I think might be the single father, Ryan Shrout, in the future. So we're just gonna let him break in the house and the baby properly without taking long trips.
The baby.
And clean out that closet.
And clean out that. See, that's the other thing. Like, he would not have been able to clean out shelves and shelves and racks of old PC gear. You know, I realized he was going for like the time capsule thing. Like,
Belongs to a museum.
It did. There's a lot of stuff that was in there. If you followed Ryan's Twitter feed over the past couple of weeks, he posted a bunch of those pictures up, and definitely some impressive old stuff. He brought a box of hard drives into the office, and like, I'm supposed to put my drill press through them, and half of them I'm like, maybe I'll just secure erase this one because it looks...
You mean image?
No. Yeah, but he had all sorts of relics in that closet. Basically, he just like shut the door of that room in his house when they moved to the PC Perspective office, and
About when I started working here.
yeah, he just didn't open it. Like, before I moved into town, I came in and we were house hunting, and I stayed over at his place, and there was the guest room, and then there was
It's kind of like that Larry movie where he just goes into his little vault and they just close it up, and years
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
They open it up and everything is pristine.
That's pretty much
Except his wife and Larry. He's
well,
not very pristine.
Yeah. Yeah, but I stayed in the guest room, and then across the hall was like just this room with the door closed. Like just
Biohazard tape.
Yeah, it was just like it looked like the door.
Do not cross.
Yeah, it looked like the door they just walk right past, go into their bedroom every night, and just like never go in there. It's a nice size room, it's gonna be great for the kids' room, but you had to like open the door and like, a couple weeks ago, and start emptying the whole thing out. Anyhow, so we won't make it. We regret it. Huh?
Well, stay tuned. We'll be there in spirit.
We will be there in spirit. There might be some surprises that just appear at QuakeCon that are PC Perspective related. And I'll leave it at that. We're trying to do some kind of sneaky stuff remotely. We really do wish we were there, because then after that we realized it was, oh crap, it's the 20th anniversary.
They're doing the exclusive Fallout 4 thing.
Yeah, they're doing the Fallout 4 thing. There's all
Master
sorts
Pancake is Jurassic Park.
Yes. I couldn't even yeah, it's a lot of stuff that we regret to be missing. But we will do it again next year. So hold off on your desire to have hardware thrown at you in a large crowd of crazy screaming people. It'll have to wait one more year. Sorry, guys. All right, so I guess we might as well just get right into,
Stuff.
the stuff. Week in review stuff. Start with that. First up, Ryan wrote this, so we have no support from the Ryan. However, Ryan did a bunch of testing on Fury X and GTX 980 Ti's, two-way and three-way, since we just happen to have 3 Fury X's in the office, and figured we might as well take advantage of that and see how it compared, right? Makes sense. Who wants to talk about this one?
Oh, about it. Well, essentially, what he found out. Let me pause and clear my throat.
Oh. It's got to do that.
Hem. This is my theory.
We're going to do that every time from now on. It has to happen.
Nice. The Fury and 980 Ti are pretty evenly matched. 980 Ti is a little bit faster in some things, Fury in some others. So we're kind of curious to see how they would scale in multi-GPU. Now, basically the long and short of it is Fury scales a little bit better in CrossFire, especially at 2 of them. Ti scales pretty well, but not nearly as good. Now, we could possibly attribute that to the XDMA controllers in both the Furies that allow direct memory access in between the 2 cards through the PCIe bus without having to go through main memory or anything like that. It doesn't have the over-the-top connector that NVIDIA does, and AMD claims that they have a little bit better bandwidth performance, and it just seems to scale a little bit better. When you get to 3-card, yes, it's a little bit faster, but the scaling is horrendous. It's just, I don't know why anybody even tries to do that, much less quad scaling.
Which one was the bad? There was like a really bad example, or an example of a bad case.
Most of the frame times. GTA 5 was really poor.
Okay.
Yeah. But, things like Skyrim, of course, didn't scale at all. GTA 5, which will often go above the 4 gigs. It, again, had lots of nastiness in there. Plus, it is a newer title, and perhaps AMD can get around with some driver optimizations to improve that. But as you can see, it looks like somebody vomited after eating some Cosby Quaaludes.
Yes, we're seeing some slight variations in the frame times here.
Yes, and it just, multi-GPU takes multiple people working together to do well. The developer needs to go through some of their tweaks in the engine, how they, access memory, how they present textures, how they do all kinds of things in their engines to get SLI to work, or Crossfire. And then also, obviously, NVIDIA and AMD have a lot of work in their drivers. They do a lot of testing in their labs of individual applications, and they create kind of special use cases and executables, and well, not executables, but libraries and profiles that will allow these titles to perform best in these certain scenarios. And the thing that probably is most sobering is I think someone came out with some figures, and I don't know if this is worldwide or just in North America. I'm assuming it's worldwide, but the amount of people that actually utilize multi-GPU is about 300,000 people, more or less. And when you consider we live in a world of 7 billion people and how many gamers are out there, you look on Steam, it's like, hey, there's 4 million people concurrent on Steam. Only a fraction of them are actually using multi-GPU. So it's kind of interesting to see as much leverage as NVIDIA and AMD push towards saying, hey, we have these multi-GPU solutions. They're great. We develop for them. They move out well, but they just are not adopted by all that many people. I mean, how many of you guys have multi-GPUs? Allyn, I think you do, right? Or no?
I do. I've got a pair of 680s.
Yeah, I've got a pair of 970s, but that has been only recently, in the last 3 or 4 weeks that I did that. Previously, I've only been one card, except I think in the 6900 series with AMD. I did Crossfire and Surround, and yeah, that was before frame pacing. So when I went to a faster single GPU, and I went from Crossfire to that, even though recorded frames, of course, were slower, it was a better experience because everything was smoother. What did you guys get from this article? Allyn, Jeremy?
I got to hear 3 Fury X's running at the same time.
How was that?
It was kind of a weird, you get 2 kids screaming at almost the same pitch. They're just a little bit off.
So they weren't quite pitched together.
Just
there were
a little bit off. Yeah, so you get a ringing, a nice ringing effect, and then imagine that with 3 children.
Well, it's like walking into a server room and every 40mm fan is just slightly differently pitched.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. It's surprisingly similar to that.
Once we find the baritone Fury X, we can start getting the whole dynamic range.
Yes, we need a musical thing of Fury X's.
The barbershop quartet of Fury X's.
In its defense, 2 or 3 of them, even though it's a little bit louder, I think the ringing kind of aside, it kind of just, I guess they drown themselves out slightly.
Frequencies, so they're perfectly silent.
Oh yeah, I wish. Right. If one of them was completely out of phase, just perfectly with the other one, that would have been awesome.
Yeah,
but
2 wasn't really more annoying than 1.
Yeah, when he was doing the 3-way stuff, it didn't really...
And you have one card blocking the other.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. The 3-way, it didn't seem to bother me as much as just even the single card. But when he was running the single card, that was the sample that has, the pitchy sound. It kind of overwhelms all the other sounds. So...
Don't buy through graphics cards and put them together.
Yes.
Unless you're doing compute.
That's the big takeaway from this. You really don't need triple SLI.
If you can afford that, you can
Crossfire.
afford some noise blocking headphones and not even know what's going on.
I guess
it's just the performance is stupid.
Yeah, I mean 2-way.
Yeah.
The only reason I went to 2-way was just kind of as a stopgap because I wasn't quite ready to upgrade, and the 680s in this office sit kind of towards the bottom of the shelves at this point. So I could get away with just borrowing one for a while until I got something faster.
Borrow.
Yeah, I mean,
do you have a video card I could borrow?
That's pretty much what it was. It was do you have a 680? How much for a rib?
How much for one rib?
One rib, one 680.
Shot of Coke in my hand for a dime.
Yeah. How about I cup my hands and you pour the water in it? All right. So yeah, that's the takeaway. I mean, I would say, even though I'm running SLI right now, I personally just prefer a single GPU if I can get away with it. That's the ideal to me, is just one GPU. You're not worried about a game being tuned for multi-GPU or weird driver issues or any of that. You just save yourself a whole bunch of headache, in my opinion, at least. But if I was going to do multi-GPU, I wouldn't go past 2 myself.
You don't like losing performance when you add in the 3rd GPU?
Yeah.
You don't like that?
Well, the third one was basically like in a lot of these.
In a couple of cases, it was negative.
Yeah, like it just didn't do anything because, well, as you go higher in the numbers, like there's just less of a chance of people doing it, right? Just by the percentages of people running 2, 3, and 4-way, right? So if you're a game developer for a particular game and you're sitting in the meeting room and figuring out, all right, what are we going to make work with this game? All right, well most people are doing 2-way.
You've got to figure out, it makes things really complex. I'm sorry to run over you like this.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. How DirectX and OpenGL do is they present a frame, and there's another frame in the buffer. And if you've got triple buffering, then you've got a third frame in the buffer, and it goes back and forth. But you've got 3 cards, and you have to try to balance out 6 to 9 frames in terms of timing.
Yeah.
And it gets really, really, really tough. But that's why you see so much more variance, because the GPU can't really control and the driver can't control it nearly as well when you've got that much more chaos. So you've got, you're running around at 60 frames per second, and then in a span of 5 to 10 seconds, you have multiple drops of 35 to 25. How do you space that out when you've got 9 frames potentially to try to you don't mix and match because they're all in obvious order of being presented, but it just gets really tough to do that. If you had some kind of supercontroller and it could more adequately control when those frames are presented, and in one part it would be smooth in that what you're looking at would be smooth, but your input would be so variable and random. It's like, hey, this is instantaneous. Why am I not turning? Okay, I'm finally turning. I mean, it's a lot of juggling and balancing act, and it's just not easy to do once you get, it's hard enough to do with one card. Just ask AMD with how they've handled that in the past with the different cards. But once you add another card and a third and, God forbid, a fourth, it just gets nuts.
Mind you, AMD's getting a lot better at adding that second card.
They are.
Not so much at the normal resolution, but why are you running 2 Fury X's on a normal resolution? At 4K, it was actually still scaling up, whereas the NVIDIA card was about, I'll give you an extra 18-20%, whereas AMD was jumping up significantly more than that at the higher resolution. So, I mean, HBM might be a good thing as we get, 5K and going up. At least the architecture looks like it.
Cool. All right, next item up for bid. Speaking of Fury X's, if you take off the X, you get this.
You get a furry.
As soon as Ken switches to my...
Come on, Ken.
There we go.
It was way funnier that I didn't.
Gee, thanks.
Because you just look like an idiot.
Just leave me hanging. You get this. You get my laptop without the X. No. All right, so Sapphire Radeon R9 Fury. So basically the Fury without the X, right? No water pump, just an air-cooled GPU. They downclock the GPU frequency slightly compared to the Fury X, and then what does the shader units drop? Drop by 14%.
Shader cores.
Right? Yeah. So it's from 256 to 224, so it's a 14% drop.
Well, that's texture units. Cores is 4096 to 3584, which is also 12%, which makes sense.
Okay. So slight percentage drop of the number of cores and shaders that can handle everything. Slight drop on the speed at which they can do those things. So
same memory interface.
Yep, same memory interface. All the other stuff's the same. So lo and behold, that works out to, just slightly slower than a Fury X. Right?
For $100 less.
For $100 less. So that puts it within striking distance of a 980. Right? It's like $50 more than a 980. Roughly. Or so. Guys, fellas.
How much?
Anybody?
What did you ask again?
About 50%.
This is about... No, it's not 50%.
That would be
50%. It's about $100 less.
Oh.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, compared to a 980, not a 980 Ti.
Oh, 980. No, it's $50 more expensive.
Yeah, it's $50 more expensive than a 980, but percent-wise, it ends up being about that much faster.
Yeah.
So about 10%.
Than a 980. About 10% faster than 980.
Because math is hard.
Because math is hard. I mean, it's so as far as like where
making fun of Valve is easy.
As far as where it's priced, it makes sense, right? It's nice that they priced it in that way. You know, that you're getting about, you know, compared to the competition, it's not a perfect match to the competition in performance. It performs a little bit better than 980, but it costs a little bit more than 980. Okay, that's fair. That's good.
So they're maximizing their earning ability by matching market conditions.
Yeah, yeah. Funny how that works.
Yeah. Capitalism. Haha. Funny.
Yeah. It was much quieter than a Fury X. I will definitely give it that while Ryan was testing it.
Well, it didn't have a whine.
Didn't have a whine.
But
I mean, it's
like,
you know,
if you look at our sound testing numbers, which couldn't factor in the whine because we didn't record those.
Yeah.
Couldn't record those frequencies. It's a little louder because it's using 3 fans instead of a pump and a radiator.
Yeah.
But definitely not loud.
This is that card that was like real aggressive about spinning down the fans, right?
Yeah, as soon as you would exit the game, it'd turn the fans off. Even if the GPU was still like 65 degrees C, it would turn the fans off when you were in Windows.
Which seemed kind of weird. Ryan was, you know, raising an eyebrow to it. I initially raised an eyebrow to it, but I kind of like that kind of a fan profile better. Like, because, you know, I'm assuming it's factoring in what its own load is as opposed to just its temperature. So if it's weighing that as well, you know, eventually you're going to cool down if you're no longer producing the heat. Sure, the GPU might still be hot at that moment that you shut the game down, but like my rig at home, that's the only time I ever hear my GPUs running, like the fans running, is after I'm exiting a game, right? Because then they're still spun up, and then it takes them a few minutes to spin down for a, you know, GPU temperature drop. So I actually prefer the method that either Sapphire or AMD, I'm not sure which.
Well, Sapphire.
Is it Sapphire specifically that does that tuning, I guess? Okay.
And I mean, if you think about it, you should already, if you have this GPU in a case, like most people do, there's already airflow going across the GPU from other case fans, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And anyone that's a little bit leery about water cooling still at this point, they don't even have to consider it. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, really, because, you know, when you're running the game, as long as you're using speakers or headphones or anything, I mean, chances are you're hearing the game over the GPU fans anyway. That I was diehard water cooling for the longest time. I had like water cooling rig, and then it was when I added that second 680. I wanted to be able to do that without involving plumbing and an extra $100 for a water block. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do one last round of plumbing, and that is to deplumb. And then I just went with I didn't go quite Mori style on my CPU cooler either. So it's not a perfectly quiet.
You got the Intel stock cooler sitting there?
No, I do not have an Intel stock cooler sitting in there either. But, you know,
I always thought that possibly getting, you know, one of those mini fridges and getting styrofoam and do a little holes in there for all the plugs and getting a
humidifier?
Dehumidifying type,
De-icer?
you know, material in there. I always thought that'd be kind of fun and cool to do, but never got around to it.
As long as you don't have air leakage into that space, like you wouldn't have to worry about moisture.
Well, no, I mean, you put the stuff in there initially, and you close it all up, and it dries it all out, and then you set it to 0 degrees and and forget about it.
Yeah,
hopefully.
But
or if you could just figure out a way to hook your radiator up into your actual fridge, into the Freon on the back, that might help too.
The possibilities are. This is something I looked at back in 1997, and I've never really looked back since.
Just cut 2 holes in your fridge,
pain in the ass,
and then plumb into your fridge, and then just keep the radiator sitting on the shelf.
Yeah,
but
I don't want water cooling. I want air cooling,
and then one for the tap.
I just want to keep air cooling in a refrigerator.
Just don't put the steaks anywhere near that water cooler that you got sitting in there, because they might defrost.
Yeah.
Josh's wife yelling at him, "Did you play Grid for 3 hours last night? The steaks are defrosted."
No, I figure if I put enough beer in there, it'll act as kind of a thermal buffer.
Yeah.
And it'll keep the surrounding area cooler, because it can absorb more heat into the beer. And that way it'll always come out a nice 45 degrees, which is good to drink.
And then Josh invented beer cooling
Yes.
of a PC.
Well, I smell money. It's the next $1 million
What's the
idea.
specific heat of an IPA?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's the hops, I tell you. They make it holds more
Probably
heat.
depends on the specific gravity, to be honest.
It actually would. So, you know,
It
the
really
higher
would.
the alcohol content, the potentially more heat that the bottle can contain.
And if you open the bottles and the alcohol starts evaporating off, then you're cooling your PC better.
Yes, evaporating. Evaporating.
Evaporating. Drinking would not cool it. Unless you're drinking it so fast that you're creating a vacuum in the beer bottle.
I hear a challenge.
That probably is a challenge.
Anyway.
Next up, Lee wrote up a Corsair RM850i fully modular 850 watt power supply for us. Man, 1500 or 850 watts. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the lineup here because they go all the way up to 1500.
Did you know Corsair makes 34 different models of power supply?
Yeah, I did not.
Ranging from 350 watt to 1500 watt.
That is a lot of models.
That's a lot. That's a lot of price ranges.
Yeah, that's pretty much every price range.
Yeah.
That's like, you know,
like $10, $15 increments.
yeah,
Off the line.
yeah. It's like
probably.
we got a $15 hole here. We can make this one for $7 more than the other one. We'll just squeeze it in there.
Branded something different. Call it good.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny because that's literally the difference between the RM and the RMI. That when Lee priced it out, there was a $10 difference between the non Corsair Link model, which also happens to come with a 2-year longer warranty at 7 years,
Yeah.
than the base model. It was a $10 difference.
Yep. $10 price.
$149.99 versus $159.99.
I mean, if you're spending that much,
Would you like to upgrade your power supply for only $10 more?
sure. You got me.
Would you like to upgrade your power supply from this one for only $10 more?
And then you
Would
just
like
keep
to buy the extended
repeating.
warranty.
And then
They
that's
just
how
keep
you end up
repeating.
with an AX1500i.
Yes, that's how you end up there. And then you end up installing mufflers for people. All right, so as usual, Lee put this through his just onslaught of random test bench based gear that I drool over every time I read a power supply review from Lee. And let's see. Well, basically, I mean, overall, he was impressed. He usually is with the Corsair power supplies.
You guys showed the interior shot like Ryan likes to do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the interior shot?
Sexy brown caps.
A detailed look. As at the ripped open. Come on, Lee.
page.
Open it. You
You
can
can
do it. Oh, it's on the next page. Oh, he baited us.
Such a tease.
It is.
This is the
Oh,
foreplay.
there we go. Oh, so there you go. 2 huge electrolytics sitting there. Right, Josh? That's the right.
Now those are some super caps.
Just 2 huge tracks of.
super duper
capacitors.
caps.
Yeah, I mean, you know, looks
Ooh.
like good construction. What?
Has he done this in the past? Where he
Has he
outlines
drawn all the
different
boxes?
components?
This might be a box from. Oh no, he did this.
Yeah, no, he did this. He's
nice.
done it once or
Look
twice
at that.
before.
That's nice.
Isn't it?
Yeah, buddy. Bulk aluminum electrolytic capacitors.
Well, so nice that we have an electrical engineer on staff.
Yeah, it comes in handy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Comes in handy for power supply reviews,
Yeah.
especially. All right, so and then there's more pics of the guts. So pros and cons. He's got a whole bunch of pros, and then weakness he listed as a minor weakness was the low fan speed causes the power supply to run a little warm at medium power levels. But
Yeah,
you know,
it doesn't even start spinning until 40% load at about a 25 degrees Celsius to room temperature.
yeah.
So a lot of and there's actually a button on it to make the fan turn on just in case you're worried.
But you know what?
Honestly, a good idea.
It's got a 7-year warranty.
Run until it's dead.
So, just, you know, it's running hot. Okay, fine. If you happen to be running it at a sweet spot for where the fan hasn't kicked in yet and it's running hot, if it doesn't fail in 7 years, it'd probably last a few more. And you'd probably be good. So, yeah, there's that. All right, so that's it for the reviews. And then we got a few news items. First up. Uh-oh. What is this? It's from Scott. It must be a Windows 10 piece. Microsoft suspends the availability of builds tomorrow. What does that mean? You just can't download them from their site anymore?
You can no longer activate the preview of Windows 10.
Oh. Okay. So that must mean something's coming pretty soon.
They pushed an update today that people are saying is RTM. I don't know if that's been confirmed. I think it might have been confirmed.
Well, somebody actually made an article about the number and what it really meant. And it turned into
BuzzFeed?
Like a article about how 10240 actually means all kinds of things. Like base 1024, get it? Times
come
0.
on, don't go all like Illuminati on the build number.
You don't think they picked that build number for that reason?
240?
240? 1024 0.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, I'm sure they were close, and they went,
guys, guess what? Funny. Yeah. It's like, one simple number that will drive reporters crazy. Click here now.
Yeah. And then in that same meeting they were like, yeah, but the actual one's going to be this and it's higher. And then they go, but the reporter guys will go crazy. And they said, okay, fine.
Just do it.
And they just renumbered one of the preview, like before RTM builds to 1024. Anyway.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Hopefully.
I can't believe it's already July 15th.
Yeah,
Our summer's
that's a whole
halfway
other
done.
thing. But
yeah, there's that. Everything is just flying by these days.
The last 15 years have been flying by.
Yeah.
Didn't seem that long ago that I was uninstalling a Banshee and putting in a stinking GeForce 2 GTS. Just mind-boggling.
All right, Jeremy. What is this?
Oh, this is my life right now, and absolutely mind-boggling. The number that the register quoted was 70% of all enterprise present in the UK still base most of their infrastructure off of Windows Server 2003, which passed away just a wee.
But it was such a good little OS. I mean, it just ran and ran and ran. It was in 32 and 64-bit flavors. Everything was developed for it. Why?
I'd put some money on the DoD or the government in general forking over some cash for extended support on this, like they did with
$600 a server. It is literally $600 a server for the extended, which is a step above best effort, but not that much.
Yeah.
So this will be all fine, because one of the reasons that a lot of people use 2003, not 2000, not 2008 or 2012, is that this was a workhorse. This thing just worked, and it works till today, and it will continue to work. So it is kind of hard to sell to the people with the money that, no, you really need to start thinking about an upgrade. Okay, what's a brand new one? Well, 2016 isn't quite out yet. We could totally redo our infrastructure to the Azure cloud, and that would be interesting. So it's a really hard sell, and it will be until the first major unpatched vulnerability starts spreading around and you start watching these servers dropping like flies. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Everyone should sort of start thinking about getting into business as, third-party support for Server 2003 will just randomly send you patches. Just grab like a patch for 2012, redo the serial or redo the registry entry so it attaches to it, and see what happens.
No.
What could possibly go wrong with that?
Right?
With
Jeremy,
that kernel update?
There's a way better cash grab here. I am announcing my new software, which changes the registry string to report to server 2012 so that you pass compliance testing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that just about every corporation that you deal with, every health provider that you deal with, every law enforcement and healthcare professional that you deal with is lying through their teeth if they say that they're using software that's compliant with general terms and conditions that you would expect to have, because they're running 2003 somewhere in there, and hell, so they probably still running NT clients too.
Yep.
So yeah, the OS died and nobody cared.
Pour one out.
Yet.
Oh, well.
God, 2003, 64 just worked.
When did
Yeah.
It worked well.
when did
Still does.
2003 R2 come out? Because I assume it wasn't 2003.
2003 R2.
Oh, it was 2000, almost 2005, I think.
Yeah,
That's 2005 in the latest versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a shame.
Yeah, it was before I
Yeah.
started. Before I started adding Metro to the server OS.
Yes.
Well,
If you ever do put 2016 out, apparently it's also going to come with a GUI-less form. Just straight out command line into it, which I think is interesting.
Well, you know what
because-
so what's the latest version of server?
2012 R2 actually has that as well. You can do GUI. You can do GUI-less.
Sort of.
It's an option.
It's just a
Yeah, PowerShell.
it's just a a blank Explorer window with a PowerShell window on top of it. It isn't like a Linux. It isn't like a Bash prompt. It's still
No, no,
running
no.
basic.
It's still in a
Explorer.
window.
It's still a
Yeah.
window, which cracks me up.
Yeah, they just took all the extra, other GUI crap out of
Just
it.
took
but-
away all the other buttons,
Yeah,
and then
they probably figured out that it
all
was
command
easier.
line.
Like
I'm sure it was
they probably
easier
figured out
for
it was
them to
more
implement.
compatible. Like to just go in a low res video mode. Just put a command prompt window up there. Put a PowerShell window up there. You're good. Don't want all the other, user 32 GUI crap.
well, no, I just think it's funny that they have to draw a window for command prompt only.
Sure,
That's the point.
stealing valuable
supposed to
cycles to draw that window.
SSH into it, Telnet into it, run PowerShell, and you don't
Yeah.
even have to worry about that. But
True that.
Yeah, because
option yet.
even though they spent so long trying to get away from DOS, when Windows originally, you had to boot up to DOS, then you booted up Windows, and they made a big deal about it's like you don't need DOS anymore. Here's the OS, and now we're going back. It's like,
Sometimes
okay,
you
you're
just
not
want it.
booting on DOS, but damn it, let's get back to the command line.
Yeah,
It has
Because every
its
time I
place.
get a brand new shiny SSD, I don't have to use diskpart to make sure it's a bootable disk, do I?
You don't have to.
Well, I don't have to, but I don't want to
Might want
download
to.
umpteen billion stupid things. And I don't want to clone it either.
All right, so last item up. 7-nanometer process?
Yeah, it's some interesting things happen in the past couple of weeks. Global Foundries and their big company ATIC. Is that right? I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, they purchased. Well, it's kind of a reverse purchase. IBM's foundry business and a lot of the research stuff. So not only did they get all the foundries, but IBM actually gave them like $1.6 billion. So it was worth IBM's time to just give it all away and give them $1.6 billion than to even mess with it ever again. Because going below 14 nanometers, as we will soon find out, hell, even going below 22 nanometers, has been pretty horrific. And it's cost a lot of money. It's cost a lot of time. There's a lot of people involved trying to get all of this stuff to work. And we can see now why Global Foundries wanted to get a hold of this, because they've been behind the ball pretty much since they came into inception. TSMC has been ahead of them primarily most of the time. Intel obviously is ahead of everybody else in terms of complex ASIC development with process nodes and advanced geometries. So now Global Foundries, through IBM, has had access to a very new, very basic, limited 7-nanometer process, kind of proof of it working process node. Now, this obviously is not going to be something that you will see anytime soon. It's going to be many years down the line, but they know the basis is there and they can get there. Just a lot of work needs to be done. And that kind of, segues into another thing. Intel announced earnings. We'll have some more about that here tomorrow. But the thing that they essentially talked about was TikTok is a little extended now. We can't quite get to 10 nanometer in the time that we were hoping to. So we're going to introduce another 14 nanometer processor. So it's what Broadwell was the first. Now Skylake, which is coming up, and now it's what KB Lake.
Yeah, still not sure how to pronounce that. Haven't heard anyone say it yet.
I think it's KB
Probably.
Lake.
KB.
Why not?
It ain't Cannon Lake, that's for sure.
No, it is not. It's not Camel River either, but we're not going to go there. But anyway. So yeah, I mean, everybody has got problems with process nodes. It's becoming extremely complex. ASML finally has shipped its 100-watt EUV photolithography machines to a handful of guys. I think they're shipping 5 or 6 this year, and these are very expensive machines. And not only are they expensive, but you have to then readjust your process flow and a lot of the technology in the other stages of the process to be able to handle this lithography stage. And EUV won't be... I would think that maybe the first products would be late 2016 if everything went really well. Otherwise, we're looking at mid to late 2017. And in the meantime, and guys like Intel, Global Foundries, TSMC, they're doing all kinds of things in terms of lithography stage, double patterning. They're looking to do triple patterning. And that gets really expensive because masks are not cheap. And you are also slowing down how many wafers you can put through a day and a month by having, these multiple, pattern and exposures. And it's pretty grim. It's not, I think we've been talking about this for ages. Well, at least for the last, since 2008. I know that I had written something in 2005 about slowing down the process migration, but that was back in the 130 nanometer days. Now we're, 10 times smaller than that. And we're seeing some real issues with being able to do this stuff cost effectively and be able to design everything that's going to work electrically, because we're seeing some really interesting things even with 14 nanometer FinFET from Intel. This is their, I think you'd kind of call it their third generation FinFET. There was 22 nanometer FinFET, then 14, and then kind of their 14 plus. And it just doesn't seem to scale well with power in an effective manner. So Broadwell, that we've seen so far, has all been a lot of mobile stuff. And that has been for about the past, 9 months? Since we saw some of the first introductions and some of the first products around CES time. So, we're looking 6 to 8 months from when we first saw these products. And the Broadwell socketed, again, we're seeing, 2 or 4 SKUs of that.
Yeah.
And now we're jumping into Skylake, and yes, eventually there's going to be a Xeon that's going to be higher power, but we're just not seeing this stuff. I mean, it's process tech is hard, and they spend a lot of money to get to where we're at, and certainly it seems like the basic tools are going to be available to everybody, and the challenges are going to be tremendous no matter who you are. So there's some speculation that below 14 nanometer, Intel is going to have a lot more competition from the foundry guys, just because there's been so many roadblocks, so many stops, and they're all facing the same issues, that throwing money at it, it's going to help, but it's not going to be as effective as we had seen in previous process nodes. So it's neat to see that IBM made this technology show. Maybe this will make the jump to 10 nanometer for Global Foundries a little bit easier. But again, like Samsung, Global Foundries, I can't remember who the third guy is that's in the common group for process technology that's all sharing the 14 nanometer FinFET. If they will benefit from this, it's going to be really interesting to see, because our future phones, GPUs, everything is going to rely on this technology that is based on, as far as I'm concerned, PFM, just pure freaking magic.
You get much smaller, it is going to be PFM because, you're just kind of run out of atoms.
Effects. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we made this transistor.
Schrodinger's a transistor.
Yeah.
Never know if it's on or off.
Well, you never know if it's there, if it exists anymore after you turned it on and off one time, because the atoms just kind of like got entrained with the current flow and just kind of like gone.
And somebody made a good point in the chat. I was saying, isn't Josh just making all this stuff up and nobody feels like they know enough to tell him he's full of shit?
Well,
there could be some truth here, but
I think
we'll
this
see.
is called like life.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's that. Let's move on to hardware and software picks. Jeremy, you're up. Oh, you found something that was out of stock.
Well, it's been in and out of stock, which is both encouraging and discouraging. But this is the first time I have actually seen a non-X R9 Fury for sale. And thanks goes out to Jonathan, a reader of ours for quite a while now, who pointed it out to me. I've seen it go out of stock and come back in, and apparently it's out of stock. So keep your eye on it, because you can search B&H, Newegg, and Amazon, and you will not find this bloody thing except for this fancy little link, which I don't know how he squirreled out, but keep an eye on it if you are actually looking to buy one of these cards. And the best part is, when it's been selling at maybe 10 or 15 bucks over the MSRP that was quoted to Ryan in his review. It's not going at a ridiculous price.
All right.
So keep your eye on it if you want to buy it.
Cool. He probably just looked out and searched for it like while they had it in stock, because then it would have showed up. Probably, I guess.
Oh no, because I was looking for one when I was posting something a while ago, and it was coming up no results except for a couple of systems that had Fury in them, which was really helpful.
All right, cool. Well, that link will be in the show notes for those listening. Next up, Josh.
Me. So this is, probably not new to a lot of people, but jam tree size saved me kind of a lot of time this week. It was a server that suddenly ran out of all kinds of space on its primary OS SSD, and I was able to download this, run it, and find that the stinking page file, the guy who had installed this did not manually set the page file to certain limits, and on a 240 gig drive, it ate up 190 gigs, and we were running into problems.
I wonder what application did a runaway memory allocation.
We got multiple statisticians all running R.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
And they run multiple instances of multiple users, and it gets sick fast.
Yeah.
Even with 64 gigs of main memory, it just ate into that page file like nobody's business.
Wow.
So, tree size. It showed me right away who the largest offender was, which was the page file.
It's always the page file.
Next time somebody tries to jam your radar or your page
file. Yeah, the one file that was 90% of the capacity of the
The first time you run one of those apps, it's always the page file. Because you never think of setting the page file size until you run out of space.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the hibernate file.
Yeah, that's another one, which you can't disable unless you just do the little command prompt string to kill hibernation, which is very handy to have.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a few things that I just have as like batch files and reg files that just like the directory
have to
full
it every time.
No, I have maintained a directory full. It's on my Dropbox, so it's like I'll do an install. I'll install Dropbox. It'll pull that folder down, and then I'll just like run like 9 different things real quick, and it'll change a whole bunch of Windows crap. Anyway, all right. Next up, so we were doing some things that required hex editing the end of a hard drive the other day, and I went to my trusty like runtime software that I usually do, and I couldn't figure out what I did with my license for it, and I was like, dang it, okay, I just need a hex editor for a hard drive that's like you'd figure would be a simple thing, but I went through several of them until I landed on this, which is HXD. It's just a freeware hex editor and disk editor. I was only using the disk edit portion, but it was able to do what I needed it to do, and it can handle hard drives up to 8 exabytes. So I think
That's big.
I think it's good for like the future and stuff.
The next 20 years.
Yeah, you should be good for a while with this. Yeah, and I mean it was pretty speedy little app, low, not bloaty, just got the job done.
Really, your hex editor wasn't bloaty?
Well, I've seen some bloaty hex editors.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, people try to cram plugins and a bunch of other crap into them, and I just needed to just see what was on the disk.
Simplicity.
I needed this simple. Yeah. So yeah, it was cool and free. Probably the way that people like it the best. It does have a donate button, but
Because hex editors have never been used to get stuff for free.
never.
No.
Mind you, in some of our viewers' lifetimes, maybe not. That was a while ago, wasn't it?
Or,
All right.
Or just modern, poorly coded software.
So, chat people, I guess I'll probably stick around for a few minutes after and answer questions. I don't know if the rest of you guys will or not, or willing. I know if Ken decides he's going to leave, then everything just goes away.
I'll just walk out the door and leave the stream running.
He just walks out the door.
I'm surprised you haven't left already.
Abandons me.
Who says I haven't? There's no camera pointed at me.
Yeah, he's just.
You don't know where I'm at?
He's just remoted in from, like, he's doing this from home.
Man, that's the dream.
But before we close, obviously you get this podcast if you are not already subscribed to it from pcpro.com/podcast. Maybe you're just listening to someone else's playing our awesome podcast. You can tweet us, twitter.com/Ryan Shrout gets the boss. Twitter.com/PCPer gets, well, pretty much any of us that happen to be paying attention to it. And of course, all of us have our own Twitter handles and whatnot. Don't forget, subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe there. Thumbs up stuff at random. All that stuff that helps us out in the long run. If you buy stuff off of Amazon, get there from a link in one of our articles. That helps us a lot, actually. Doesn't cost you anymore, but it helps us a pretty good deal. It's to the point where we buy all of our own stuff using our own link from the Amazon.
Well, first we buy Amazon gift cards using our link for that amount, and then buy the.
Actually, that's the really crazy one. So if you use a link from one of our articles and then you buy a gift card, we get a percentage off of that, which is awesome in the first place. But then if you use that gift card, again, still through our affiliate link, then there's a compounded percentage off of that. I don't know why Amazon hasn't wised up to this. Just shh.
Well, they will have now.
Don't tell them. But yeah. I mean, you have to take the added step, like, it's kind of cumbersome. You put the stuff in your cart, you figure out how much it is, then because you can buy a gift card in an exact amount. Like, you don't even have to have an excess, right? You can be like, okay, this is $100.06. You buy a $100 6-cent gift card, and then you can turn it right back around and use it. Anyway.
It's basically money laundering.
It's kind of, yeah. I feel like it's almost like just stealing money from Amazon. It's not laundering. It's just, you're just taking, like, they're giving you percentages. Anyway, but all that stuff that comes in from that affiliate link, it just goes right back into, the stuff that we do for the site, paying the bills, whatnot. And I guess that's it. I'm Allyn Malvitano.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And that's it. Stay tuned next week for the boss. Should be back. Maybe bouncing the baby on
Hopefully.
the table here.
Oh God, we hope he's back.
We do hope he's back.